hopefully we're live. Fingers crossed.
We're
It's
live.
saying that we are. So that is good news. So I just said to Lynsay, I've not done this for a while. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get all of my words out. It's going to go swimmingly. We just had a little bit of a yawn before we started.
I know, it's late.
It is late, but it is the time that people are sat at home on the sofas. Hopefully the kids are in bed. Hopefully they're all tired with being back to school. And that traumatic episode of trying to get them into bed and asleep at an early time is a little bit easier now. So we thought that this would be a good time to be able to reach everybody and be able to talk about podcasts. And they're such an important part of brand building, I believe. So much so that I am committing live tonight that I'm going to launch my own podcast.
Whoa! So what about that for accountability, Jo? You've told everyone now.
I've told the world, so now I have to do it. But yeah, they are such a good tool for brand building, getting your message out there. That I believe anyway. But obviously, Lynsay, you are the expert. We met for the first time virtually about a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
And then not so long after we met in person. And I think it's fair to say we hit it off quite quickly.
Yes, we did, definitely. You're a superstar. I love it. Just what you see is what you get with you. And I love people like that.
Absolutely. Definitely. There's no other way to be in my eyes. Might get me in trouble sometimes, but bye. Never mind. But yeah, you really struck me as somebody who knew what they were talking about, was super focused on why you do what you do, and how it can help business owners, entrepreneurs, people with online businesses, with bricks and mortar businesses, people with teams as well. I think people think sometimes podcasts are only for the influencers or celebrities, where in actual fact, with a little bit of strategy behind it, it can be the most amazing tool for business owners. So I'm going to let you do a little intro into who you are, what your background is, and why you got into this arena, just to give everyone a bit of a context, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
I'll go for it. So, so anybody catching this on the replay, welcome. Hi. I know you've probably just got a screaming child to bed and you've only just sat down with a cup of tea. So, hi and welcome. You can chill out now. So my name's Lynsay. I'm the owner of the Podcast Boutique, which is a podcast agency. So we help people to start podcasts, to grow podcasts. And we also work with YouTube as well now. So we're going to talk a little bit about sort of differences between those as well in a sec. But it's safe to say that I fell into what I do completely by accident. So my background in the past was HR mentorship training. And I was in that for a very long time, coaching, that sort of thing. And then after 20 years, I left my job and I started my own business. And a big part of me leaving my job and getting started was listening to podcasts. I was on the road all the time in my job. So I was on the road listening to these podcasts who sort of showed me the art of the possible, really, showed me the type of business that I could have, because I didn't know anybody in real life who had the sort of business that I wanted. So podcasts played a huge part in it. So I knew that when I started my business that I wanted a podcast. So once I got settled in and everything was working well, I started my first podcast. I've had 3 so far. So I started my first and I got inundated questions about how did you do this? What mic did you buy? How do you choose a microphone? How do you make money from it? Like, are you not scared of the tech? You know, how do you get the confidence to do it? Like, so many questions. So I started doing a sort of few bits and pieces on the side of my coaching business, helping people to get started. And then a year or so later, I decided to go all in with it, because it got to the stage where I was doing more podcasting work than coaching, because I loved it. I just massively found something I adored doing. So I went all in, started small, and then we've built up the agency. So now we have an agency where we help entrepreneurs and brands from all over the world to start and grow podcasts. And I love it. The main reason I love it is because I just think it's a perfect platform for women. I really do. There aren't enough women in podcasting, and I'm banging that drum every day. I think the figure might have changed slightly, but not much. There's only 11% of the top 100 podcasts are women.
Wow.
That's crazy. We can't allow that to happen. So yeah, I'm all about I do work with men as well, but I mainly work with women. And we just need more women in podcasting. We need more people using this platform, because it's something where you don't have to put your makeup on and get all dressed up and have perfect lighting. You can literally sit in your bedroom with your microphone and your headphones on and record. And it's not live, and it's all editable. And as soon as you hit publish, anybody anywhere in the world can listen to that. And I just think that's magical. It's just one of the fastest ways to grow a business today, definitely.
Yeah, so I thought about doing a podcast personally myself probably a couple of years ago, before the big C hit and just put a massive bomb in everybody's lives. Probably shouldn't say that word on Facebook, probably get like banned from it. But a big explosion into everybody's lives.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh God, I just haven't got the time for that right now. I've got to concentrate on making sure my businesses survive, supporting my team, supporting my family, getting through the unknown. But actually talking to you, it probably doesn't take half as much time as what we think we do, does it?
No, and that's the thing. A lot of people build it up in their minds to be a lot bigger than it is, because they're scared. Ultimately, if you don't understand it, it's a bit scary, isn't it? You think, what do I do with all this tech, and how does it work? So yeah, you do sort of make it feel a lot bigger than it actually is. You just need help and support to get it done. And I think when I started my first podcast, I was so naive. I just said, right, I'm going to start a podcast. And I started it, and I literally just wanted to throw my laptop through the window, because there were so many things that I guess that I didn't know that I didn't know. And yeah,
oh God, isn't that business all over though? We only know what we know, don't we? It's not until we start reaching out to other people and having those conversations, and maybe going networking or joining groups and being surrounded by the people that are either on the same journey or maybe a little bit ahead of us. We're like, oh, right, yeah, I didn't know that. How did I not know that? It's so simple. And we just think, oh, actually, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be reaching out for help. We need to be looking at the people that have done what we want to do and soak up all of that information, learn from their mistakes so we don't have to make those mistakes ourselves.
Yeah.
And for so long myself in business, I just had my head down. I made so many mistakes, so many, and I just kept myself to myself. And it wasn't until I started going out and meeting other people in business that actually it grew quite a lot. And so did my confidence as well, and my knowledge, because why make mistakes at the cost of your own sanity, your own money, when actually you can learn off somebody else's mistakes? But that's a whole different conversation. Maybe I'll
whole other conversation. But you're right. For me, I always think about, whenever I'm buying something, I always think, how long will it take me to learn this versus getting someone else to do it?
Absolutely.
And I know when we're starting out, we can't always do that. But there are cheaper ways to do things. There are always cheaper ways to do things, but you can still get support and not have to spend thousands of pounds on getting it. You absolutely can. You don't need to.
I think the other great thing about podcasts is, and Clubhouse really helps me with this, is that there is so much content out there on the internet. There is so many posts, so many pictures, so many people doing live, so many people doing videos, that you almost now kind of, not completely because we still post, but you kind of become immune to it. It is really hard to get people to engage with you. And there's the age-old statistic that it takes 7 touch points for somebody to purchase from you. I would say now, in this day and age, way higher,
especially after the big C, we're going to call it, aren't we? Especially after that, because everyone's been at home. Yeah, massively.
Scrolling, and there's just content, and everybody that wasn't online is now online. And I feel, and this is what I hear from other people, that they feel like their content is just lost. They feel like their visuals are just lost. The time that they put into their visuals, the time that they put into their videos, sometimes can just get lost in the noise. And then Clubhouse came along. And I got on Clubhouse, I think it was like the last week of December, beginning of January.
I remember it well.
I was a little bit addicted to Clubhouse. My daughter actually called a family meeting, and point 5 was Clubhouse. Like, I was a little bit obsessed with it. But you know what it taught me is that audio and voice, you connect so much quicker with people
massively
when you hear their voice, and you don't have the distraction of videos, because we're on video now and I'm talking to you, but I'm like, oh, look at that great picture in the background of a dog, and look at what's on her bookcase, what books is she reading or has she read, and it is a bit of a distraction. Whereas when you are on audio only, you are fully engrossed in that person's voice, and
you're so right.
What they're saying.
There's actually, I've got a stat. I'm all about the stats. I love stats. When you think about video and audio, now I love YouTube. I love video. I'm always on YouTube. I'm constantly looking through it, and I listen to podcasts. Video is king. We all know video is not going away. We've got Reels, we've got Instagram TV, we've got everything. And we'll all continue to consume those. But in terms of attention span, there's been a ton of research on this recently, and only 33% of a YouTube video will be watched in its entirety. So only 33% of a video will be watched. With a podcast, it's over 80%.
Wow.
So with a podcast, what you're doing is it's almost like you're buying into people's attention, because you'll know if you're driving, if you're out with the kids, if you're cooking, if you're exercising, you can just listen to a podcast. But with a video, you've got to have your eyes on it and do nothing else. With a podcast, you can just get on with other things. So what happens is you just build a connection much quicker with people. You're right. Clubhouse massively showed people that. But the great thing about a podcast is it's evergreen. It's not done with. You know, it's there, and you can repurpose it, and you can do other things with it. That's
I agree, because that was the one thing that Clubhouse was great at the beginning, because it's scarcity. So you wanted to be on there because you didn't want to miss anything.
Yes.
But also, we also have lives, and we have kids, and we have responsibilities. And there may be a really great room that was going on when then you had to go into a meeting, or you had to take the kids to somewhere, or you had to do something, and you're like, I really don't want to miss that, but I have to. Whereas with a podcast, you can then go back to it, can't you? So it is evergreen. You can go back to it as and when. You can listen to it over and over again. So the reason I love books and audibles is the fact that you can go back. If someone says something and it really resonates with you, it's not like it's gone and that's it. And you're like, oh, what was that? And I needed to write it down. Or you think, oh, I remember that. And then you don't. With a podcast or a book or an audible, you can go back and you can let that sink in. And sometimes we have to hear the same message again and again. And this is an ongoing joke that I have with my masterminders, that I can say something 6 or 7 times, and it isn't until like the 8th time that it actually sinks in. So
it's true. It's true.
To hear things again and again, don't we?
Yeah. I've got one that I'm listening to over and over again at the moment. It's called Hello 7 by Rachel Rodgers. And this just gives you an idea, right? So Rachel Rodgers, never heard of her before. Was scrolling through the podcast app, found it, thought, oh, what's that? Listened to the podcast, realised she got a book coming out, went and bought the book. Now I'm on a mailing list, and I'm thinking, oh, that membership looks good that she's got. And that's how it works, because it's almost like we were talking about those touch points earlier. It's sort of sped up. It's like the Netflix effect, because people binge listen. They don't just listen to one episode. They'll go through the whole back catalogue, And what you're buying into is that, isn't it? It's you're speeding up that conversion almost.
Yeah. So I would definitely say, would you agree that a podcast, what are the main benefits of the podcast, would you say? So I would say building trust.
Yeah. Building trust. Definitely. Building trust, definitely. I don't know about you, but I think when people are just listening or they're just speaking and they're not on video, I think they're more themselves. And you connect with people. So yeah, I think definitely trust. You're going to build an audience, definitely. So obviously there's a return on investment there, because what happens is people find you, and the time between somebody finding you and signing up to work with you or buy your product or service, it's much shorter, because they've connected with you and they've got to know you a lot quicker.
And on a deep level as well. I think from the podcast that I've heard, people are a lot more open. It's a lot more natural.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like, I think the best podcasts are where, if it's an interview, for example, where you feel like you just sat in the corner of the room listening to somebody have a conversation, like you're just sort of listening in. And they're just very real. They don't have to be like super polished. It can be like this now, just a chat. You know, I've done loads of interviews on podcasts. I've had people on mine in the past, and the best ones by far, the ones that get listened to the most, always ones where it's just really natural, just have a conversation.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. But I think you're right. The whole thing that it doesn't have to be a video, and you don't have to think about your makeup or what you look or the background. It just allows that creativity to flow a little bit more, and there's less pressure. And you can batch record podcasts, can't you?
Oh my goodness, yeah, you have to. I definitely recommend that you batch. People say to me, oh God, I haven't got time to batch like 4 episodes at once. You have, because it's going to save you a ton of time. So yeah, you batch 4 at once, get them all done and dusted, and then that's your content for the whole month done. Because you can repurpose them. You can get transcription from them. You can get, you can go through the transcription and pull out quotes. There's all sorts you can do with it. Don't just let it be. I'm talking to you here, because when you start yours, don't just let it be an audio podcast. Like, rip it apart, squeeze it up, and see what else you can pull out of it.
I think for somebody, obviously you do work with men and women, and podcasts are for men and women. But we know that a lot of my audience are females, not all of them, but most of them. And this is very, very stereotypical now, but women, we like to talk, don't we? Yeah. And I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to write the perfect thing. And this is me again. Like, it took me, I can't even tell you, when I first did my first online course, I literally wrote it word for word. It could be a book. And then I recorded it on like an auto cue. And it took me about 6 months.
Oh my God, Jo.
Ridiculous, honestly. But actually, if somebody just said to me, right, this is what this video is going to be about, starting a business, like, what is your why? I could have easily just spoken about that for 5 minutes without any prompts, without anything. It would have been done in a day. I recorded it all in a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I think audio, we as women, we are great at communicating through our voice. When we find our voice, when we're confident with our voice and what our message is and how we help people, we're great at sparking conversations. We're great at kind of, if we're doing interviews, delving a little bit deeper and being a bit more vulnerable. Those are things that we're great at. So actually, for a woman that thinks, oh my God, I've got to put content out there every single day, I don't know what to write, I'm out of ideas, which I hear daily from people. Actually, I would 100% recommend looking into doing a podcast. And like you say, from doing the podcast, using your voice and your knowledge through there, and then pulling that out into content that you can then put as posts or snippets and things like that, can't we?
Totally agree. There's so much you can do. I've done short episodes of like 10 minutes long, and you can get like 15 pieces of content from it. It's ridiculous. So I'll expect to see a massive influx in the amount of content you put out.
Absolutely. Carol's just said, just by listening to this live, now I want to launch one. Oh my God, Carol, you would be amazing at a podcast.
Well, Jo wants somebody to help her. Well, to be
accountable
alongside her, yeah, while she's doing this. So definitely.
We could be accountability buddies, Carol, for sure. So what other tips and stuff have you got as to why people should do a podcast, or what makes a good podcast, or any other questions that you get asked all the time?
Well, we've covered quite a lot, but one of the things that I often get is people will say to me, I want to start a podcast. I want to do an interview podcast. And I'm like, great, that's great. But how is that going to help you grow your business? Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with having interviews. There's nothing wrong with having guests on your podcast. But I always recommend the first 6 or so episodes be all about you. Just be you teaching, you talking about what you do. Like, give people a way to connect with you before you start bringing in all these other people. And it feels scary at first because we think, oh God, if I'm doing an interview, I don't have to talk as much. I get that all the time. But honestly, you'll grow your business more, you'll grow connection, you'll grow your audience if you do more solo episodes at first and then bring the guests in. So that's a top tip, definitely. You might have been thinking, no, I'm going to do interviews. You might have done. But I'm going to definitely encourage you to do some on your own as well. Definitely first.
Anybody I would say, because we started to do your course that you've got, my team and I was exactly the same. I thought, actually, if I interview people, it takes the pressure off me just talking to a microphone. I can talk the back legs off a donkey. But I thought, actually, that would just ease me into it. But actually, going from your advice, saying do some on your own. But what I might do is, again, take 2 days out, do my interviews on day 1, and then do my solo ones once I've got the gist of it, then put them out as me first and then my interviews.
Definitely, yeah, 100%. And then going forward, you can just have a day each month that you do all your interviews, all your recording in, and then it's just done for the month. Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited. So what other reasons is there for people to do podcasts then?
Well, we've mentioned about, buying people's attention. They're massively on the rise. There are 2 million podcasts out there right now, just over 2 million. But there are 31.5 million YouTube channels. Oh, hi, Diana. 31.5 million YouTube channels, only 2 million podcasts.
Wow.
So it might feel like, if we're on the online space, it might feel like podcasts are absolutely everywhere, but they're really not. So there's still a massive amount of opportunity to get really high up in the podcasting charts, to get noticed, to get seen, to connect with people. When I first started my podcast, like earlier on in my business journey, I got so many great connections just by having a podcast, because I was able to reach out to people and say, I'd love to have you on the podcast. And ordinarily, I wouldn't have been able to have a connection with them, but because I had a podcast, I was able to. So it opens up your network, definitely. You just never know who's listening. You never know who's listening. I got a psychology's column off the back of it online because somebody was listening to the podcast. She then joined a course, and then she said, oh, by the way, I work for psychologies. Do you want to come and write some articles for it? So you just never know who's listening. That's the beauty of it. That can feel scary, but honestly, it's fantastic. The amount of opportunities that you can have. So I would say go for it. Definitely.
And what would you say, where would you say people go wrong with podcasts? So I would say, I'm probably going to take your answer here, and I'm really sorry.
It's all right. I'm sure there's other reasons.
One thing that people go wrong in business, full stop, is inconsistency.
Inconsistency is one, definitely. So there's a thing called pod fade, where you get to 10 episodes and then you don't produce anymore. There's so many people do that, because the reality is you'll have a big bang launch, there'll be loads of noise around it and it's all exciting, and then you do have a little dip, but it does come up again. So you've got to know that in advance. It's knowing that is going to happen so you can protect yourself from that pod fade. But also, one of the biggest things that people go wrong with is they start a podcast and they don't have a strategy. They've not planned it. They've not figured out who it's for, what it's about, who they're speaking to, what they're trying to achieve. They're just seeing it as something to do because they think they should, rather than okay, what am I doing this for? What's the purpose? It's all of that stuff that I talk about in the course, as you know, that is the most important stuff. It's laying the foundation before you go off and buy the sexy microphone and all the equipment. Everybody thinks that's the first thing, but it's not. It's all the strategy. It's all the exciting stuff first.
That is like music to my ears, because anybody that's worked with me before, I always talk about building those strong foundations first.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that people see other people and it's this overnight success, but it's not. There's so much hard work that goes into the background of any successful business or person or anyone that's achieved anything. It's not just happened overnight. There is some real thought and strategy put into it. But I feel like the word strategy really makes people fearful, even in business. And I think it should be really serious and really in depth.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Ultimately, it's planning. It's making a plan. That's what it's about. It's planning out what you want.
I do my strategy on Post-it notes.
Yeah, like, of course.
There's no 40
I've got it here. Just a brown, like the brown roll of paper with Post-it notes all over it. Yeah, I'm all about the Post-it notes. Definitely.
Yeah. But I think it's having that someone guiding you through that is something that we all need in business. It's, yes, we see what the end product is, but there's so much that goes in before that. And having those prompts, I mean, we talked right at the beginning about you only know what you know. So having somebody prompting you and asking you questions and getting you to think about certain things really opens up your mind, gets real clarity in your head as to what you want to achieve. Because when you don't have clarity in your business or in life, like, you're not going to go very far. You're just going to take one step at a time, really slowly. And sometimes it feels like you're taking one step forward and 10 steps back. But actually, if you've got a clear strategy and you have that knowledge and you have that belief and you've got all your ducks in a row, you can go so much quicker, so much further.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And if you don't have that plan, what can happen is you end up starting a podcast and thinking, oh, this isn't what I wanted to do. You know, it's something completely different I wanted to do. And then you get disheartened with it and you get inconsistent and you don't want to do it anymore. Or there's
mixed messages, or there's no call to action. So I know that with podcasts, like you say, there's people that are doing podcasts really well that have a call to action. Buy my book, subscribe, get this lead magnet, all of these things where you're putting people on a journey so that you can get to know them better and they can get to know you better. And that's how you build up your tribe. It's not just by throwing stuff out there willy-nilly.
Oh my goodness,
Putting some thought into it.
I can't wait to start yours.
Yeah, I know. I sound like I know all the stuff, all the gear, but no idea. That's why I've got your course. And that's why the team are doing your course as well. Because I'm very good at talking, but I'm definitely better at planning. So Diana says, I love talking, but was put off by the editing and all the other bits. Just being a guest on some for now. Diana would be amazing.
She would be good. And Diana, it's great being on other people's podcasts. It's a really nice way to sort of dip your toe in the water and see what it's all about first. But honestly, if the tech side of things is just the only thing keeping you back from doing it, honestly, I'd say 90% of people who work with me say tech has been the thing that has stopped them from doing it. I promise you, it's not as difficult as you think. It really isn't. You just need someone to show you how to do it and what to get. And it's free, by the way. The things that you can record your podcast on is free. The things that you edit your podcast on is free. So, you know, it isn't too difficult. It's just about practice. That's what it is. It's about knowing that at the start things are going to feel a bit bumpy, but you're going to get better at it. It's more time to edit. Yeah, it is more time to edit. You can outsource it. I have an agency. But yeah, it does take time to edit. But if you've got shorter episodes, and that's another thing, you know, there is a trend towards shorter content now, like 10, 15, 20 minutes. If you're not doing big hour-long episodes, it doesn't take you that long. It doesn't have to be a ridiculous long episode because people don't have the time for it. 10, 20
Yeah,
minutes.
I agree. I said exactly the same thing to my team this morning.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to use an hour to say something that I can say in 10 minutes because I know that my attention span is very limited. Like I have the attention span of a gnat, and as most entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
So I haven't got time to listen to somebody say the same thing 100 times. Just tell it to me once, tell me how to do it, or tell me what I need to change, or open my mind to something once.
I get that question all the time. Like, how long should my episode be? Well, it's how long is a piece of string, really? Because just needs to be long enough to get across the information you need to get across without padding it and without being boring. That's as simple as that. You know, if you can say it in 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If it takes 30, it takes 30.
Yeah.
So don't feel you've got to do big long episodes. You don't.
But that's again where your strategy comes in and where your planning comes in, and that's what your course helps people with. Because actually, if you know what episodes you're going to do, what they are, what you want to achieve, then actually there might not be that much editing, because once we get in the flow, then actually, and nobody else hears all the 100 that we say. It's us that hears that on the replay. Nobody else picks up on that. So actually, that's what you're worried about editing out. Don't worry about it, because actually the more natural you are, the better.
Normal speech, we do say and you know, and whenever we have clients who say to us, oh, can you edit out every single and we say no, because you'll sound like a robot. So we'll keep some in. We'll take some out, but we'll keep some in.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you just dropped in there that you have an agency, which is amazing. So there's 2 ways in which people can work with you if they're interested in doing a podcast. One is the agency and one is the course, which is what we're doing at the moment. I have Kickstarters that have some experience with YouTube and audio. So we're going to try doing our own at the moment, editing and stuff like that. But there's no doubt that we will probably be hitting up your agency some advice too. Maybe not, we'll see. But the course is so great that actually I feel quite confident that me and my team are going to be able to do this. And I haven't got a massive team. I've literally got 1 apprentice. Chelsea's back from mat leave, which is amazing. She's back part-time, and then I've got 2 Kickstarters that are both on 25 hours a week. So I haven't got a massive team, but we feel after going through your course that actually this is something that we can do. And I'm very limited on time. They're quite limited on time with all the stuff that I'm kind of delegating to them. I think your course gives us that structure. So do you want to talk a couple of minutes about your agency and then a few minutes about the course as well?
Yeah, well, I can tell you all about the agency another time. The agency is essentially, we do everything for you. So you just record into a mic, send us the raw files, and we do everything else. You can find out information about that on my website, thepodcastboutique.com. But the course, which is what Joe's team has been doing, not Joe, Joe's team has been doing, it's something I've created after working with hundreds of clients now. And I know that not everybody is at the stage in their business where they can afford to work with an agency. Simple as that. But there are people who want to start a podcast right at the start of their business or in the first couple of years, and they don't have the funds to be able to go through an agency at this stage. So the course has been put together in bite-sized chunks so that it's really easy to go through step by step. So it's broken down into 3 modules. It's called Plan, Produce, Profit. And that's exactly what it's about. So it's about planning it, and then all the techie stuff in the middle, the producing it, how to put it all together, how to create show notes, how to get it on Apple and Spotify, how to get in the charts, all that stuff. And then the profit side is about setting it up from the start so that you can make money from the podcast from day one. So I love podcasts, but my passion is about women in particular, men as well, women in particular, starting a podcast that's going to help them grow a business that they can leverage. So that 3rd module is all about how you can make money from the podcast right from the start. And it is possible from day one. So that's what the program's about. You get all the information all up front. We also have every week, there's a Facebook group, and it's launching this week. We've had it on sort of beta up until now. But there's a Facebook group. So anybody who joins the course every single week I'm doing a live Q&A. So if you're going through the materials yourself and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I'm not sure how that bit's going to work for my business, I want to ask Lynsay about that, I'm going to be there. So every week there'll be a live Q&A, so you can ask me all your questions. You've got lifetime access to those materials, and as we update them, you'll get those updates as well, because things change fast in the podcasting world, very fast. So you get those live sessions every single week with us. You get lifetime access. And the program is for you, definitely, if you are somebody who, most people have wanted to start a podcast for a while, but they've been putting it off. They might have been thinking, I don't know how to do the tech. I don't like my voice. I don't have the time. You know, I don't know what to buy. Like, what do I need? Is it going to cost me a fortune? So there's all of those things that, you know, worried about being judged, thinking that people are going to laugh at them, you know, all of those things. I've heard them all, I promise you. And you can do it. You know, this isn't a course where you're just left on your own. There's going to be weekly calls, so you can get my advice every week. So your team,
I love that. And I think that's something that a lot of courses miss, is that they show up and they might show up for the 6 weeks and do a teach. There may be a Q&A, and that's kind of it. If you don't keep up, or if life happens and you kind of go off and can't finish the rest, or you can't keep up with it, that's kind of it. And then once you go back to it, you're like, oh, actually I needed to ask this question or this question, because it's only when you start doing things that you think, oh, actually I needed to know this, I needed to ask this, so I've got this mindset shift that I need to do. And that whole judging people, like, I hear every single day, I don't want to put content out there, I don't want to go live. I've been there myself, believe it or not.
Everyone has. We all have.
So actually having somebody in their corner like you to answer the questions and to give that support ongoing, I think is absolutely priceless. I think that is such a great addition to any course.
Yeah, I just think I don't want people to feel left behind with it. I don't want people to open up the course and think, right, I'm ready for this, and go through it. And every time we start something new, we always have that niggle. We always have those doubting moments where we worry about it and, can I do this? Or, oh, I don't have time this week. But that's what it's for. It's for that accountability. It's for that cheerleading. It's for the fact that when you launch your podcast, everyone will be there to say, well done, and share it for you as well, and support you. So yeah, that I'm all about community. So I'm really wanting to sort of develop that side of it, definitely. So it's going to be really fun.
I love it. It's amazing. Anything else that you wanted to share about the course or podcast, or anything that you want to say to the audience watching?
Other than to say, go and check out Jo's link that she's got here. Jo's team are going through this right now, and she's going to need some accountability herself as well to keep this going. So I know she'll want people from her own audience doing this too. So if you have any questions at all, you can catch me on social media. You know where I am. I'm on Facebook in the podcast, Podcasting for Business group on Facebook, or you can just send me a message on Instagram at the Podcast Boutique. But yeah, wherever this is, I don't know where we are right now. We're in a couple of different places, but I'm sure I'm there wherever you are. So if you want to tag me in a question or anything, just let me know and I'll be able to answer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lynsay. Like I said, we are doing the course. It is fabulous. I never promote anything that I haven't done, or I never promote anybody that I haven't worked with or have a relationship with. So I know, going through it myself and the team, I haven't gone through it as much in depth as they have. But for people that are new to this industry, to the online world, to podcast, to business mentorship, to brand building, to lead generation, they get it so, like, really, really good. You explain everything really well. It's really easy. You don't use any lingo that baffles people and confuse people. It is just real talk. So yeah, I really, really love that, and so do they. And we feel like you're there supporting us every single
thank you.
Right.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Right. So as Lynsay says, if you've got any questions, then feel free to reach out to me or to Lynsay. There is a link to the course, so do check it out. There's lots more information on there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to helping more people with their podcasts and getting this out there, and especially women. Like you said, if only 11% of women are doing podcasts, we need to change that, and it starts here. So yeah, I'm super looking forward to everyone building their brand and their businesses through podcasts, because I truly believe it is the way to go, which is why I'm getting involved in it right now.
I can't wait for yours. It's going to be fab.
It is. I can't wait. Amazing.
Thanks so much, lovely.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone watching. If you're watching the replay, then do type in your comments and we will be coming back to check them too. So have a lovely evening. Take care.
Bye, everyone.